goes in line with respect, but it's different. Like, you know, in my upbringing, I was fortunate in Clara and I actually had a very big conversation about it, a deep one, last week as we were talking about, you know, all of the civil unrest going on in the country with George Floyd and you know, the protesting and the riots and whatnot. And, you know, for me, I always grew up in a household where color never meant anything. You know, like both my mother and my father, although they're both light skinned, um, they both came from humble beginnings. You know, my mother came from the projects in downtown Brooklyn, um, and my father came from the projects in Staten Island. And so my father, you know, red hair, light skin, freckles. My uncle tells me like they were the lightest people in the neighborhood, right? But you know, everybody treated each other with respect, right? Because you were part of the neighborhood, right? It didn't matter where you came from. Same thing with my mother. She's Puerto Rican, but she's lighter than me, man. So and I'm light as hell, as you can tell on the video. So, but everybody, no matter who they were, what color their skin was, they all treated the same, right? When they walked in the neighborhood, because you're part of the neighborhood, right? And so that's kind of how we grew up, you know. And honestly, there's many different shades across my family, especially on my mother's side. You know, my godmother is a dark skinned Cuban. Her twin sister's the same, obviously, and she's like my second mother. You know what I mean? So I've always grown up with that understanding, and that's another thing that we always talk about in the house that we never change, and I make it a point to not change. Is we don't look at anybody differently, regardless of what their skin color is. People are people, you know, and you all treat them with respect. So,
So have you had conversations, at least with your 13-year-old, about what the phrase Black Lives Matter means and what's going on in the country?
yeah, and it's it's crazy because there were points at time when, you know, I would get a little angry at the fact that he was oblivious to it, but then I also had to take a moment to take a step back and understand where that kind of obliviousness is coming from. One, two, say, well, I need to point with the thumb and realize, well, part of that may be because I'm not doing a good job as a parent in educating him, and this was a wake up call for me to kind of be a little bit more, I guess, provide a little bit more consciousness to him, right? And three, it also gave me a perspective of where the rest of America, not all of it, but many instances, this could be the place, the kind of thing that they're going through too, right? Where if it's not if it's not affecting them or they haven't experienced it, then for them it's hard to understand and get a kind of sense of perspective on where all of this emotion could be coming from that they're seeing on the TV, right? And um, yeah, we had a big conversation about it. Um, I would say the conversation's been a consistent one over the past couple of weeks, but it's grown in length and description as the time has gone on. Because as you know, as the events have unfolded, um, more and more action is, you know, getting taken place across America. So we had a conversation about it the first week. Then we had in church the past 2 weeks. We streamed. Um, they actually dedicated two services to talk about it, and they brought people in, who are from not are within the church, but on other parts of the, you know, like other parts of the U.S. to speak to it and speak to their own personal experiences. And from those conversations, we usually at the end of church, we always talk about like, well, what did you get from church? What did you see from it? What did you hear from it? So we've had dialogues like that. And then recently, last week, we had a protest in the we had a march actually in town, and so we actually had the kids, you know, obviously observing social distancing, have them participate in so they could see what history looks like, to see what it is to, you know, to actually feel so strongly about something that you're going to be vocal about it, and you're going to get together with your community and you're going to talk about it. So, you know, and ask them like, what did you feel like walking down the streets? What did you feel like seeing all of these people come together and talk about these things? So, um, and then honestly, um, it made me reflect a little bit more of like what the society is going through, right? Like, I don't know, this has been the case for you guys in Brooklyn, but like in my son's 8th grade classes, nobody talked about it at all. Not even in history class, where you would think they would talk about it. Had anybody given any conversation of like, what have you guys been seeing on TV? What have you been feeling? Like, what's your perspective on this? How does this relate back to things that have happened in history? Like, nobody. I didn't get an email from the principal, the superintendent, PTA, nothing. Nobody had talked about it at all. And I thought that was really strange, because I can remember living in a time where OJ, Rodney King, that we talked about it in school, you know, and just because you're at home and you're having to live in Zoom meetings doesn't excuse the fact that you don't at least send an email or have a conversation in video conference about it, right? But nobody, I don't know if it's for fear of liability or, like, again, because they feel like that doesn't happen in their neighborhood or they don't see it, that they need to talk about it. But I just found it really, really weird, man. So we've been having lots of conversations about it, and it's been weird, man. You know, but it's been a good wake up call to constantly keep it top of mind for the kids so that they see it, and it's definitely lit a fire under myself and Clara, and making sure that we always keep it top of mind moving forward. Because I don't think we realized how oblivious not only our kids but the rest of society was to this, because of the fact that they never been exposed to it to that level. Because for Clara, though, she's experienced it. Like, she's had to live it many, many more times than I could even imagine. And she's known what it's felt to be discriminated and put down and be made lesser than and called names and stuff like that. And she was like, you know, she wants the kids to understand how wrong it is. So it's been a real interesting journey these past couple of weeks.